This video is going to show you a solo flawless grasp of Avarice, the new dungeon from the 30th anniversary pack. For those that just want to see the run and skip the timestamps, you are available to you. Other than that, I can show you what you should bring to the dungeon, my recommendations. Doesn't mean to say that it's right or wrong, it's just what you think about it. But this is what I ended up going with ultimately after playtesting the dungeon. So when you solo flawless the entire dungeon, this is the emblem that you will get. It's the same as like what Prophetic Visionary was for Prophecy, or Crimson Echoes was for Pit. For this one, it's this emblem you see that I've got on. So this is what it looks like if you're interested. It's a good emblem. It suits the theme of the whole dungeon itself, which is like Pirates of the Caribbean type theme on the whole thing. So it's a good emblem. It might not be as good as looking as this one though, maybe, but it's decent. So we're on a Warlock. So this is going to be a Warlock run. Obviously, we're going to cover other classes, but as of today, this is a Warlock run. So the class that we went with is Dawnblade, Well of Radiance, Attunement of Grace. We will switch from this and Attunement of Sky, Top Tree Dawn. Those are our two classes we're going to go with. Exotic Helmet, the Stag, which gives us Healing Rift energy when we're critically wounded. I'll talk more about this in the run though. There's a lot of things I'm going to touch on. This is just a list for you, right? But there'll be more information in the run itself. We have a Protective Light build on our helmet. We've got Charge Harvester on the gauntlets, Taken Charge on the chest piece, and on the bond we have Charged Up. So we get ×3 Charge of Light. That gives us Protective Light when we are Charge of Light. We can pick up orbs to get Charge of Light. We can also have Charge Harvester on, which gives us a small chance of getting Charge of Light, which eventually you'll get it. Because there's so many ads to kill, you'll get that. Scavengers on the boots to match our weapons. Ammo finders on the helmet to match our weapons, of course. That's the basics of the build. I use arc damage resistance for the whole thing, double arc resist. I'll talk more about resistance when we get to that. In terms of weapon wise, we're using a kinetic sidearm. Spoiler alert, I never change off this. I use this for the whole thing. We use the fusion rifle coordinate with Vorpal weapon slideways and a boss spec in it. If you're going to use this build, you should be putting boss spec on this fusion. It makes a big difference. And then Sleeper Simulant as our exotic choice, because Sleeper got a 16% damage buff overall with all the buffs, right? It ends up being really good for this dungeon just in general. Other choices of weapons I'm going to bring, well, it's only going to be the heavy slot that will change. So at one point we're going to use Galahorn at one point, and then another point we're going to use Lament. So I bring those three exotics, that's what I recommend. There is Witherhoard strategies and all that stuff, right? But even Arbalist, things like that. But this is ultimately what I went with. Piratical Deconstruction on also to match the fusions, and we switch off that when we're using the Lament. You could use any sword you want, I just went with Lament. We go for Passive Guard when we have to switch off. That's what I recommend you bring to this dungeon. So as you load up the dungeon, you will be situated in the Cosmodrome. That's obviously where it starts. That's where the loot cave is. So as you start, you want to take out this Solar Wizard, and then what you want to do is rush for the cave itself, because that's when the ads start to spawn. Those are the ads that you're really concerned with. The quicker you are with that, the easier, it sort of is. It's not too difficult, this starting section. What this starting section is doing is explaining the mechanics. Now generally with my dungeon runs that I've done in the past, like Prophecy, Pit Versi, Shatterfront, I don't really go into the mechanics of them too much because they're well known at this point when I'm doing them, right? But this is brand new, so I'm going to heavily talk about all the mechanics and all the little details about the mechanics that you probably won't know, because yeah, it might say, some person may say, oh well, you just do this and then this happens. That's good, yeah, but what else is there to the mechanics, right? Because there's an important one with these riches. So think of it like as Gambit. When you kill enemies, you get motes, or in Prophecy, you kill the knights, you get motes, and then you dunk the motes. This is the very similar mechanic to that. The difference is you pick up engrams, you get burdened by riches for each engram you get. That is a debuff, and they need deposited into the crystal that's in the cave. So this is the first mechanic it's showing you, right? This is mechanic number 1, the main one. Every time you pick up 10 stacks of burden of riches, you will get full super energy, class ability energy, melee and grenade, which means you can start doing supers. you can do like a super build in your runs. Now, for each crystal, there's a certain amount of number of riches that you need to deposit into that crystal. For the first encounter, it is 50. You need 50 stacks for the first encounter. However, not every crystal's same, and it's different depending on each encounter, which was interesting. We'll take out this Shrieker, then we're going to jump over and use our super, because we had our super from the riches from previous. We didn't use it because we wanted to use it here to skip the ads. This encounter you don't really need to do anything with, it's just for Randall the Vandal and for the Galahorn Catalyst to make progress with that. But we're not doing any of that in this run because we've already done that. This is just focusing mainly on the solo. This is where the maze section comes in, and there's a lot of pull and switches, a lot of this, a lot of that. Now if you don't know what the route to take, you need to just research. You just need to sort of, not research it because I'm showing you now, you just need to sort of get used to the route. So you come into this room, you activate this switch here, then you go to the right side, jump on the table because you don't want to activate the button. Any buttons that you jump on, or most of them, they activate a booby trap, right? Spikes, they can kill you, or a ledge can kill you, things like that. It's kind of like 0 hour with the ledges, that sort of drop after you've stepped on them. You want to activate that lever underneath, not that one though, because that one will kill you. Only activate the levers that I'm doing. Don't try and do anything else because you will wipe and you'll lose your so far, so you'll have to reset the run and go again, and it'll become a pain to you if you have to keep doing that. So just as I said, learn the route. With the fan section, you just want to come to this one, activate the door. There's only one way. The other ones will just they'll kill you unless you sort of sword block or something. That's that first initial maze done. Now we're on to the next section. Now this is probably longer than this is shorter than what it normally is because you need to activate multiple levers, but I don't do that. On a Warlock top 3 Dawnblade, that's what I'm on, you can just make the jumps without having to do all the extra levers. So just if you are on this class, you can just follow the route I take, because you're allowed to make the jumps. Hunters will struggle, you'll have to probably put Stompies on. Titans will be fine. Stompies, not Stompies, you'll put Lion Ramparts on. We'll take out the Shrieker, then we'll move over to this door, because it's the next door that's opened. We'll look for the next switch. That will then provide us with the exit, and then we're just going to make the same jump. We can even proc heat rises right here if I wanted to. I didn't end up doing that. The jump, the floaty jump and the Icarus dash is enough, and then we'll activate this door. The other door will kill you. This will then bring you into another room full of switches. This room has numbers, right? So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. The first lever is at 1. That will then unlock 3 to then unlock the next door. It actually tells you, if you look at the switch, so I'll go to it now, you'll see. You can see the red shows you it's locked. I've just unlocked 3. Every time you unlock a room, you get a wizard. So I would recommend killing the wizard, but the acolytes, you don't need to kill, seriously. I mean, most folk are over 1310 power. If you're under 1310 power, which that's the power level of this activity, then it might be a little bit different. But especially with the build that we've got on the Stag and Protective Light and things, you can just run past them, that's fine. But I would recommend killing the wizards because they're a pain. If they do their blinding attack on you while you're mid-air or something, you lose your jump, you're suppressed, and then you will wipe. So just take out the wizards, which they one-shot with Sliver. So we've unlocked 2, which unlocks the Scorch Cannon. So this is the next mechanic. This is teaching you the next mechanic. So we've got Burn by Riches, we've explained that mechanic. The next mechanic is the Scorch Cannon. So the Scorch Cannon needs to overclock the fallen devices, the machinery, whatever they're called. There's multiple ways of doing that. You can either hit them multiple times, single shots, uncharged, or one maximum charged Scorch Cannon shot will overclock it regardless. As long as you hit the machine right in the middle. If it's on the sort of outsides of it, it won't count. It won't count. If you get an immune number on initial impact, you're good. Sometimes you don't get that though. But generally, you need to be really accurate with these Scorch Cannons, especially at the final boss fight. It's so critical. I'll go into that when we get there. But right now, it's not that critical. But anyways, we're coming to the Ogre fight. We switch to Well of Radiance. We are sticking with the same weapons. I've got Spoiler Alert on, which is a kinetic sidearm. Amazing for Ag Clear. It's got Frenzy. You want something that's really good on Ag Clear. Maybe even hand cannon. Hand cannon, I would suggest either a hand cannon, SMG, or a sidearm. I wouldn't recommend scouts and things because you're not playing like that. You're wanting to kill ads quick. Even Warmind cells would be good. But essentially what we're doing now is we're incorporating the two mechanics we've learned, which is the Burden by Riches and the Scorch Cannon Overclock mechanic. So we're combining those two together, sticking you in a boss fight, and that's where we go with that. The crystals at the back of the map. So I've just deposited 4 the 4 Burden by Riches. So how many riches do we need for this fight? Well, the first crystal in the opening count was 50. In this one it's 20. So it's a different amount in this. So just what you need to start doing is, there's nowhere visually with these crystals. Not from what I've saw. I mean, there is a visual, there's not anything visual on the crystal to tell you how sort of far you are. I think the crystal grows, but it's very difficult to, with all the chaos, it's very difficult to see what's going on. So I would just suggest you count that up. So I already know I've got 4. It's in my mind. I've got 4. And I've also got, you know, riches coming now. Generally what you need to think about is, for every damage phase on the Ogre, you need to do 2 rooms of riches. Because each room has a maximum of 14 riches, so that's 28. You only need 20. You don't need 28, you only need 20. So if you miss on some riches, that's fine. But if you start doing 5 riches per room or something like that, because you're slow at killing the ads and picking up the riches, that's no good. Needs to be 20 minimum, unless you're going to be doing 3 rooms, 4 rooms, too much. Do it in 2 rooms, it's less risk. But we use a Well of Radiance, you see, to do that, because the Burn by Riches, for every 10 stacks you get your super. So you can just use your super and get your super back for when you need it for the boss. So you're just super in those rooms anyways. Depending on what build you use, you could go all out with build. If you use Chaos Rage, Stormcaller, Voidwalker, and other classes, it'll be good. So it opens up a lot of loadouts for this boss fight in general. I really like it. The Randalls will spawn at the back of the map. They'll come via the skiff every now and then. The skiff won't shoot, so that's good, at you. You need to learn this, with this Ogre fight, you need to learn boss cover, right? So where can the Ogre hit you and when can he not? In these rooms, especially on this side, he can hit you. So you got to be careful that way. But I always just pop a well right in the corner of the map. It's the safest thing to do. And as I said, you're going to get it back. You'll see the mechanic right now. So we're on 7. That's 8. We get our 2 and get our super back. So we just use it, we get our super back. That's really good. There'll be 2 acolytes left outside on this. For each room, 2 acolytes hang out outside. Then we'll get a phase of Thrall. So the Thrall are independent. They spawn every 40 to 50 seconds. It's something like that. They have no rhythm. They just keep spawning based on time. We'll deposit our mortars. As I said, we only need 20. We got the 20. Pop a well once the text comes up. Once the boss raises his arms, that means his shield's gone. Right? So what it is, the boss is buggy with the shield. So even though you've deposited 20 mortars, you might need to wait 5 to 10 seconds. You'll see on my next DPS phase, I have to wait behind the crystal before that happens. But what I'm doing here is maximum damage with Cartesian to get max particle deconstruction, and then use a lot of sleeper. We do more than a third, almost half HP, which was really good, and we didn't even use all our sleeper, so that was really good damage. This is going to be a 3-phase fight. The way I do it, it'll be a 3-phase. You can 2-phase it. Solo 2-phase, definitely. If I really optimize this, you could definitely do it. Even on a Titan with a bubble, weapons of light, you could definitely solo 2-phase. Maybe with a different weapon loadout, maybe like with 1000 voices. The only thing with 1000 voices is Thrall push you on DBS sometimes. 1000 voices can kill you, right? If another ad is in front of you and you use your shot, that's a death. Sleeper's safer that way. You're less likely to kill you. It's not like the old days of Sleeper where you used to Sleeper would ricochet and kill you, especially in D1 days. It doesn't really kill you now. You've got to really try hard to kill yourself with Sleeper. So Sleeper's safer that way as well. We're doing our usual, well in the corner. This room is a lot safer than the other side, just because it dips down into a corner. The boss can't see you at all. It's the other side that's more dangerous. Deposit our crystals. Heal it if you need to. I mean, the boss generally won't hit you. We've got a spawn of Thrall there. Now I know that because I'm looking at my radar. You need to be vigilant and looking at your radar the whole run. Especially when you're on the boss fights, the first one and the final boss fight, you need to be really on the ball with Thrall and things like that. Like, I'm weak here. I'm fine though, I've got protective light and things, but, you know, a player that doesn't know what's going on, they might die. Because they're maybe not looking at the radar, they don't know what's going on, they don't know where to stand. Standing, obviously there's cover here, where I'm standing, so the Ogre will concentrate the Vandal. He'll actually do damage, massive damage. You can pick up the Scorch Cannon below, you don't need to stand on top, because when you stand on top of that ledge, he beams you. Stuff like this you need to know, especially when you go to the Master Solo. That's going to be a little bit more difficult with champions. You take a lot more damage, a bit more damage than what you do in this one. It won't be too bad, it depends on your light level. Like, I've just hit 1360 last week. I had stopped farming the XP ages ago, right? But I had hit it hard this season at the very start. But after that I just relied on the well rested buff, because you get 500,000 XP free per well rested. But if you're lower than 1360, the massive dungeon for this is going to be quite difficult. So we got our second stack of riches. Once this is up, we're going to start our phase 2 of damage. We're max on ammo. Now this is where the boss, you can see the boss is still immune. He's wandering, hitting me, beaming me, and he's not taking his shield. So this is what I'm saying, you need to wait until that text comes up. It says, has succumbed to temptation. Once that happens, you pop a well. In the meantime, just use a rift. Sit behind that crystal, he can't hit you. Now this boss can aggro on you and stomp you as well. Like right now, he just done it. If that happens, you need to sort of peek shoot between the crystal and hide. It'll stop him from stomping you. So look out for that on the boss. Now the boss is nearly dead. Our damage is really good on that second phase. You could, as I said, you can solo 2 phase. It was just quite unlucky I didn't. We'll sleep at the Vandal. Just makes it quick work. Because ammo's not that important so much. Well, it is and it isn't, and I'll explain why when we get to the Sparrow section. Because after this, it's the Sparrow section, which I'll get into when we get sort of just done with this. So we just need to rinse and repeat. We haven't got a well of Radiance. If you're pushing a room with no well when you go in there, you must have a healing. If you're going to push the way I am, I would highly recommend there's a good risk you may die if you don't. You can definitely out-tank it though when you're sitting in a healing. You just need to get that healing up right off the bat. Stagger him with a nade, something like that, the knights, because the knights are the key targets to take out. You can see this fight, it's very generous for heavy. I'm getting heavy all the time because I've got my hammer finders and my scavengers. There's plenty of ammo that drops on this fight after playtesting it. I've playtested quite for a good amount of hours on various, you know, loadouts and things. And as I can honestly say, use your heavy, use your special, you get loads of ammo. You shouldn't be just using a primary weapon. But we have got a good primary weapon on if we need to use it. As I say, this weapon, this spoiler alert with Frenzy, it's got Feeding Frenzy and Frenzy on it. It's really good. It's a really good sidearm. Sidearm's got a buff, they're hit scan now, so if you don't know what hit scan means, it means when you shoot at a target, it's an immediate hit. Whereas there's no bullet travel time. So if you see you snipe an enemy, there's bullet travel time. With this there isn't. So sidearms actually got a buff this week. They feel really nice, because they felt a little bit iffy to be honest before this, but now they're starting to feel quite nice when you want to use them For close quarter engagements like this, they're really good. And I used it for the entire dungeon. I didn't put on scouts or pulse rifles. Just stuck with the sidearm. It worked out really good. Sometimes ads can get stuck in the wall. If that happens, that happens. It's fine. We've got 12 stacks because, as I said, it's 20 stacks. So we stacked what? We put in 13 previously. Right? We've got 12 stacks, obviously more than the 20, so we're good for that. But we do want to take care of this Thrall. If you can take care of Thrall before a DBS phase, it's handy doing that. Healing Rift, just to wait for the stacks to go. Stacks have gone, he still isn't immune, so what it is the boss will aggro on the fall, and that's what can slow it down. What I would suggest doing that is just aggro him, actually shoot him with your weapon, get him to beam on you, and then he will actually put his arms up. When he puts his arms up, that's when you know the shield's down. So this is where the next encounter comes in. It's the Sparrow section, right? A lot of people are saying about this, about how it's ruining flawless runs and things, and I can understand that because there's a lot. You can die so easy on the Sparrow section. It's not like on Prophecy. So what I suggest is this. This is a really good setup. Go on top 3 Dawn just in case you need the movement with the Icarus Dash. Go on Galahorn. I had heavy bricks left on the floor. That was intentional. That wasn't RNG or something. I actually purposely left those bricks to pick them up because there's no more banners, right, until later on. So I swapped to Galley, and we're going to use Galahorn. If you want to use any track and rocket, you can do that. It's going to work, but this is my strategy to safely do this Sparrow section. Okay, so activate it. You need to summon immediately because you're timed as soon as it starts. There's a switch to the right. Then you want to make your way under, or sort of close to this wreckage or whatever it is. Then you loop around this rock. You can side dodge to sort of avoid their enemies. You need to sort of maneuver your Sparrow so you're avoiding all the fire. Okay, because they absolutely melt. Activate the switch here for B. Jump off the Sparrow, Galahorn these 3 dregs. This is, I'm not saying you have to do this, but this is really safe if you do like this. Then respawn a Sparrow, get B. Obviously you just Sparrow over the capture point. You don't need to wait on the capture point. When you Sparrow over them, you immediately get 100%. That saves so much time. There's another switch there which you can't miss. We've got 10 seconds on C. That means we've got 10 seconds to capture it. We've got plenty of time. We use a Galahorn on those dregs there again. Capture C. Then we get the last switch, which is on the right. Now we'll get 15 seconds for D. Now you can go top, left, or bottom. I chose bottom because I've got enough time. What you need to do when you go through the portal is anchor your Sparrow backwards. If you don't do that, you'll hit a rock and your Sparrow won't make it across the hole there where the water is and things. So don't anchor your Sparrow forward, anchor it backwards. Also use a good Sparrow. I mean, you can use on always on time the raid Sparrow, but I used the 30th anniversary one. I don't know what the name of it is. I can't mind right now, right? But it's really good because it's really long, so it's not really wide, so it can't get caught on things. The Age of Triumph Sparrow is really good Void Streak because it's got enemies are less aggressive towards you while on a Sparrow. So has the Raid Sparrow got that. But if we're being honest, does someone need those to complete this? The answer is no, because I've just done it without it. So you don't. Just any Sparrow that you like. I would honestly tell you the Micro Mini might be the best Sparrow because it's so small, ads can't hit you. Well, they can hit you, but it's really difficult for them to do that. So the Micro Mini, if you want to use that, I would highly suggest doing that as well. Any Sparrow that's good to you that you like. So this is the Fallen Shield encounter, right? So this is where you need to. So you see the dome in the middle, right? We need to go there to fight the farm boss, but to get there we need to take down the shield to get up top. So this encounter molds all the encounters into one. It also includes the cannons as an encounter, as a mechanic. So you can move these cannons left, right, middle for each of the islands. If you touch the sea, you die. That is it. That is an instant wipe, no matter what. What you need to do is look for a servitor. When you find the shielded servitor, you need to kill the servitor. The servitor will then spawn a bomb. You then put the bomb in the cannon, and the cannon obviously launches the bomb to the fallen shield. There's like parts to hit off the shield above us. You'll see it. So there's a couple of mechanics with this. Obviously the new mechanic is the bomb. So you need to look for the shielded servitor. I've come to the middle. This is middle island. This is what I would refer to as middle island. You can get to left if you're on a Warlock. We're on top tree Dawnblade. The reason why we are is because we've got Icarus Dash. We don't need DPS. We don't need Ag Clear so much. Well, we do need Ag Clear. That's why we switched to the Lament with passive guard. This will help us survive easily while we're picking up riches. And the Dawnblade super, we can use the super to get from island to island, because when you get 10 stacks of riches, you get your super back. So you can get a super per island. You can spam your super, get it back, use your super to get to an island. If you're on a class like a hunter or something, you're going to have to start using the cannons a bit more than what I did. Right? On a Titan, you'll be able to sword fly on a Titan, so the Titan's going to be really good. Warlock's good, as you can see, with top 3 Dawn. Hunter, not as good, but you can use bottom tree tether to get islands with, you know, put stompies on, use a sword. You could still sort of make it work with a hunter, but I haven't done a hunter solo flawless yet. This is my first solo flawless on the wall, but I will come to the hunter and I will come to the Titan as time goes on, but obviously with the Warlock first. So how this works is you need to get riches, of course. There's a crystal in the middle, in the middle building on each island, so there's a crystal on every island. You need 20 stacks, so for these crystals it takes 20 stacks. That will then remove the shield from the servitor, which you then need to kill the servitor. You get a bomb, you then move the bomb to the cannon, and then you use the Scorch Cannon to overclock the fallen unit, the machine, whatever, and then that's how you take the shield down. You'll see it. If you haven't already, I'm sure you have if you're watching it. Once you get the bomb, if there's any riches on the floor, be careful of that, because if you pick those riches up, you need to deposit the riches, because once the timer runs out for riches, the 30 seconds, you will wipe. So there's an added mechanic there. So you need to, if you don't need riches and you've got it on you, get rid of it, because you'll lose your flawless if you don't. Might be common sense to people. Some people might, like, they'll be thinking about the bomb and they'll forget that the riches is on them. So always check to your left. Have you got riches? Have you got riches? No, you haven't. That's fine then. So we've eyed up the cannon. The cannon was set right. If you don't fiddle with these cannons, the angle of the cannon's right anyways, unless you're moving them because you happen to get to a certain island, which you will have to. So we're going to jump over to the next island, use heat rises to get there easily on a Warlock. I could have used the cannon alternatively, but that's why I'm on Dawnblade. You can see we've done a quarter HP to the fallen shield, so there's no way to speed this encounter up in terms of, like, you know, doing more damage. If there was a secret mechanic to it, like if you can get it in 2 phases rather than 4, that would be interesting, but I don't think you can. It's just a 4-phase fight no matter how you look at it. So it's a case of just doing rinse and repeat, getting your 20 riches, and then going to the crystal. You will have a Vandal chasing you with a Scorch Cannon, because there's a Scorch Cannon Vandal on every island. There has to be, because that's how you get your Scorch Cannons. When you run out of Scorch Cannon, there'll be a Vandal spawning, so there's always Vandals there for you to get a fresh cannon. Don't worry about that. But what I would suggest is leave those. If you're not in need of a cannon and you're getting riches for the crystal, don't kill the Vandal, leave him up. There's no need for that. He will do damage to you and what have you, but if you run around with a sword with passive guard, and if you're above 1310 light, then you're fine in this. You're not going to get melted or anything. On Master it might be a little bit different because there's overload champions and you get hit a little bit harder depending on your power. That's different, but obviously we're just focusing on the base version of the dungeon first. These bombs have aim assist as well, so you don't need to be exact with them. Also, if you knock a bomb off the map, you won't get a fresh one, from what I've found out. However, they are meant to respawn servitors. I don't know, it's been buggy today. I had a run before this where the bomb fell off map and no servitor would respawn for this island, and I got error coded afterwards. So I would just say to you, don't do that. Don't sword the bomb. Just walk to it. Nudge it with your guardian. Don't be swording it, because that's where the bomb will go flying off the map and things. It's a bit inconsistent when you start swording them, so don't do that. So we're looking for the next servitor. I believe he's up top near the waterfall area. So we'll move this cannon. It's got 3 positions, this particular cannon, that's fine. We'll get it to where we want. Whenever you need to look for the fallen unit, follow the orange pipe. That's how you know where it is. You don't have to go looking for it, just follow the pipe. Also, you don't need to overclock them, you just need to touch them. You can just do one single fire shot with the Scotch. You don't need to be charging them. The only time I charge them is, like, say if I'm not on the cannon, I'll charge it and then release the trigger when I get to the cannon, when I'm ready to go. That's when I do that. We'll use heat rises to get to the island to our left, because we may as well. We could have used a super as well if we wanted to, because you're going to get your super up all the time because of the 10 stacks, so we can get a super every island. So when you're done, you'll have a Dawnblade, and Dawnblade top tree is really good for, you know, sort of getting to other islands. If the island's really far away, then it might be worth popping a super to get over there, on this class at least. So we're just getting our stacks. We're going to try and leave the Vandal up. He's, you know, you don't have to do that. If you want to kill the Vandal so he's out of your way, you can. Just know that your Scorch Cannon may despawn, because the Scorch Cannon will despawn. I mean, I don't know the time, it's like 30-40 seconds. If a Scorch Cannon sit on the floor, eventually it will disappear, and then a new Vandal will spawn in. You'll get our captains as well. They give you more loot, more bonus by riches, so they're worth killing. We're literally mainly just using the fusion and the sword, to be honest. We've got our 20 stacks, so there's no need to kill any more adds. If you've got a fresh wave of adds, because the adds work on it, when you've killed that wave of adds, you'll get a fresh one. So if you've got it on the rotation where there's quite a lot of adds coming at you, then you might need to clear them, then clear the servitor, because once you clear that servitor, you get your 1 minute 30 timer. It's a lot of time to optimize though, you know, but you need to make sure you get it done before that timer runs out. Make sure the cannon's lined up, which if you haven't fiddled with it, it will be, but always double check it, because you don't want to be sending that bomb and it's not lined up. That's just not what you want. You don't want that hassle. So I would just say double check it. Double check the cannon. Make sure it's lined up. Which it is. That's the 3rd bomb. So there's one final bomb to go. So we can loop round the islands. It's at the very first island, I believe. The first servitor. The last servitor, sorry. We'll use the heat rises because this jump's quite long. But a super would also make that. That's where your hunter would struggle on a jump like that. But bottom tree tether, as I said, that will be probably the play on this. Not top tree, bottom tree, because the bottom tree tether you can make a lot of distance with just tethering over and over, especially if Stomp is on. That's the build I would use on it anyway. This is the final island. Just rinse and repeat, picking up our riches. Also, take note of the time and how long it takes to get rid of a riches. It's roughly like a second, a second or half a second per 2 stacks. So see, imagine if you've got 60 stacks. How long is that going to take to get rid of? Well, that's going to be quite a long time. So that's going to be really important when we get to the final boss. For this part it isn't, because it's only 20 stacks. 20 stacks isn't long to get rid of it. Okay. But once you start getting the higher stack, I don't know what the max stacks is. You could probably go all the way up, but obviously there'd be no point going up to like 100, because there's no crystal in this entire dungeon that requires like 100 stacks. So there will be no point in that. But you can go up to 60 stacks and above. This is our final bomb. Again, we're not going to sword it. We will equip our sword though. It's just a little easier to maneuver the bomb. But as I said, they do have aim assist. Just watch it will sort of go into the middle where it needs to be. The cannon is lined up. We'll go for our Scorch Cannon. Follow the orange pipe. And then we're done. One reason when the encounter finishes, a lot of cannons you can't move. They just sort of go into a certain position. There's only one cannon that will move, which is the one that you need. There's only one cannon that will actually take you up top. So this jump here might be risky, as I say, on other classes, but on this class I'm going to use heat rises. You would just use the cannon. The cannon actually sets you up to get to that island. But I just use heat rises to get over. I should have kept hold of the cannon. I'll just get a fresh one, which isn't a problem. And then we're going to switch off this setup. So we're going to take off passive guard. Of course, we're going to go back to our DBS build, which is Sleeper Simulant, Particle Deconstruction. The same fusion we've used. We're going to still use the kinetic sidearm. It works out really good for my playstyle in this, for the way how I do the boss. But I could see a lot of people maybe you putting on a scout and a pulse because of where you can stand. Right, there's some good places to stand at the boss fight. It's a really well designed boss. The whole dungeon's really well designed. If you want to know what I think this is... I don't know if it's better than Prophecy. I mean, I think it maybe is. Because of its theme. You know, it's Pirates of Caribbean type theme. So it's really good that way. I mean, I'm unsure... These are the best two dungeons. Probably a lot better than Pit. Even better than Shattered Throne. In my books. But obviously it is new, so I will say that. So we'll just switch all our mods off, of course. We'll switch to ammo finders, match all our weapons, and then we can sort of prepare for the final boss. Okay, so the final boss for this dungeon will also yield all the mechanics we've learned so far. The encounter will start when the engram explodes. What you want to do, especially on this class, is do a well right here. This is where the ultras spawn. There'll be a Invis Marauder that's ultra, and there will be a sniper. These two VIP targets, if you want to call them that, need to be taken out. Before you deal with Scorch Cannons, before you sort of deal with ads and things like that, you need to deal with those two targets, especially the sniper. You could maybe get away with not taking the Invis Marauder, but the way I do it, you definitely want to take out these two targets, so that you don't have the risk of wiping to those. Now you can see this back area where I'm sitting is really safe. Well, not really, it's not super safe, but it's where you would stand to do this comfortably. The only ad that will really push you is the Scorch Cannon Vandal, which is good, because you can use the Scorch Cannon to save on ammo for damage. It's really slow though, especially on the VIP targets, but it's not bad. What you want to do is maximum stack the Scorch Cannon, so you should get 44k damage. I didn't stack it, fair enough. But what you can do is just jump up on this this section here, and you can avoid a lot of the enemy fire. You'll get grenaded. The boss will also do mines. You'll throw mines at you that can slow you, and you'll get a lot of arc nades. This is where the double arc resist will really help. I do highly recommend you go double arc resist for this. You could even go wrist runner, you could, but it would just... thing is with wrist runner, it would sort of suffer because you would have to use a heavy linear trace, a heavy linear fusion, and then what would you use in the connect slot? You know, that's the thing about it. So you really don't need the wrist runner. As I say, you can just do it from back here with a loadout like this, or use Witherhoard, do a loadout like that. So we've used our cannon shots. The sniper's one shot. We've took out the Marauder already. Sleeper does good damage to the sniper once you get the particle deconstruction. We've got the Scorch Cannon that's pushed us, which is good. You can essentially just use the Scorch Cannon for ag clear as well. What you're going to have to find yourself doing a lot is ammo runs. Now this room is split up into 3 areas, I would say. Your right, left, and then your island area, right? So the ads are endless. They keep spawning and spawning, right? So there's no thing where you can just sort of kill all the ads and then you're safe for a good bit. Well, I mean, you are for a little bit, but not for too long. But for the most part, this is what you really want to do. So there's 3 fallen units to shoot. Now one of them can be closed. So one can be closed and then open, like it was on the Ogre fight, where one of the units is closed. You'll see if it's closed or not. If it's open, you can be able to see a hole in there, right? Rather than being a cap on it, so you need to check that. But if you just do map rotation, so you do right one time, then left the other time, you'll never sort of be bothered by that too much. As I said, this is where the overclock comes in. You could do the 5-6 single shots and then overclock that machine. The only problem is you're wasting so much Scorch Cannon ammo that you're going to have to re-farm up another Scorch Cannon. So that's not really good of doing that. What you want to do is just one shot, make sure you get your full maximum charge, which is 2 ticks. You'll hear the audio cue, just charge it until it's sort of maximum stacked. Then release, you'll then get your loot, the engrams, which they'll spawn left, right and the island. Now it's difficult to get all free drop, like all free areas, but you can certainly get, I would say, at least one side in the island. So what I do is, it's 5 per, it's 10 per area, right? So there's 10 on the right, then there's 10 on the island. So I can reliably get 20 per phase I do. But I've got a maximum of stack 50 right now, you can see, because the timer keeps refreshing. So the middle crystal, here's the crystal here, that takes 60 engrams, bear my riches, 60 to get to DPS. This is why the boss fight's so long. So I've handed in 50. Now why have I done that? Well, because once I get to the healing rift would run out, so it would be very dangerous doing 60. You can do it, I'm not saying you can't, but that's not what we're here to do. We're here to optimize it. So if I do 50 stacks, then do a 10, you could do 3, you could do so much. You could do the 320s, play it really safe, just depends on your class. On a hunter, you may be best doing 320s, 3 stacks of 20s, because obviously it's all good and all getting 60 stacks, but you need to get rid of that. Okay, you need to get rid of the stacks. So maybe 320s on a hunter. On a Titan, maybe something like 320s as well would work. But on a Warlock with Stag, being able to heal and rift and tank all the damage, doing a 50 and a 10 is really good. Or you could do, you know, a 40 and a 20, whatever you want to really do. But I wouldn't recommend just doing 10 each time. That's a bit. You'll be here forever if you do it like that. We got 9 stacks. This was really bad because I only needed 10. This is the thing, if I go to the crystal with the 9, that would be 59 stacks. It's not going to go to DBS, so I definitely still need the next burden. But what it was, my timer was pretty low. Now this is the risk that you take. If you're going to go for super high riches, you need to know that the longer you leave it, the higher risk. Like say for example, you charge your cannon, it takes a long time to charge it on the machine. If you get it wrong and the cannon hasn't stuck properly and you have 5 seconds, you're going to have to immediately go middle, and if your timing's off, you could wipe because of it. So I was just frightened of doing that there, especially in the run, so I just went for the extra 1 because I was 59 stack. Then as soon as that happens, the boss will teleport. That's how you know it's on DBS. And then pop a well. Pop a well, then you want to use your fusion rifle, Cartesian, for max stacks of particle, and then you want to do sleeper. I think it's getting bounce damage, but I'm not sure because there's that unit behind him, whatever it is. So we do all our sleeper till bar 1, so we've done 12 sleeper shots, and then rest of it's Cartesian, and we get 40, I would say 40% just over 40% damage taken. So this is going to be a 3-phase fight. We're setting up for 3 phase. If you go for if you end up having 4 phases, that's fine. But any more than 4, and then this is a super long fight to you. It's a high risk because the more phases you go, the higher the risk that you're going to die. You may panic, right? You're on that final phase and you panic, and you may be picking up riches. You don't have a healing nade, because you'll see I do that a lot. Because obviously, for every 10 stacks of riches you get ability energy back. So I can use my healing nade on Well of Radiance. So I'll get my first 2 stacks of 5 each. Then when I go to the island, generally I'll do a healing nade there because I'll be weak from the ads, to get my overshield, and then continue getting my riches. But after a phase of damage and everything, your concern isn't riches. Forget about all that. You need to take out these ultra VIP targets, because you can definitely not leave that sniper alive. You could get away with leaving the Marauder, I guess, but I wouldn't recommend that either, because I do DPS from middle. You can do DPS from the back of the map. You can do that. There is a risk to that though, because the boss can come round there and stomp you off the map. Whereas if you do damage in middle, he won't approach you. So his AI changes. I would just suggest on this loadout, especially with Well, just pop your Well in middle. With Sleeper, there's not much flinch. It's really easy to use Sleeper. There's not a lot of flinch like there maybe is with a sniper or something like that. So even though ads are going to flinch you in middle, because there's falling everywhere, it's fine. You can still easily hit his crit. It's not too bad. You can fight from here for the snipers and things. Just be careful of ads to your left and right. But as I said, we're just doing damage to the sniper. The reason why this section can be really difficult, or this particular part of the fight, is because you're going to be low on ammo, because you'll have used all your heavy on DPS, which I highly recommend you do that, because you really need to get in good damage and optimize it. Because as I said, you don't want to take it 4 phases or even 5. It's too long for you, because as I said, that's 60 riches per phase. It's a lot of riches to do. The sniper's down. It's just the invisible Marauder, which I couldn't really see where he was. We are going to use a Well of Radiance for him, because the reason why we do a Well on the Marauder is because once we start to get riches again, we get our super back for DPS anyways. Our super's not a concern, right? So we can use it. Like, this Marauders can be kind of awkward to fight because the boss throws his mines at you and things like that. So we are going to use a Well, but right now we need to find some ammo. So I used a bit of Scorch Cannon on the ads to my right, which you can do that. If you're getting pelted by ads left and right, don't be shy just to use the Scorch Cannon, because that's what it's there for. It is there for ad clear. That's the way they've designed this. They've designed for you to sort of spam not just your weapons. It's more designed to be like a DPS fight, but use the Scorch Cannon and your super for ad clear, because it allows for that when you're getting your super off 10 riches. So I'm just using the cannon for ad clear there, just to see if we can get some ammo bricks. Especially is what I'm looking for. I do realise I'm not going to get all the heavy I want. I've found that ammo is much less consistent in this fight compared to the Ogre fight. Why that is, I don't know, but it just seems to be, getting as much heavy as what you would like. Special ammo's dropping. Special ammo's dropping when we want it, but the heavies, it can be lacking at times. All I would suggest to you is, don't start a DPS phase unless you've got the ammo to do it. I would say minimum 9 Sleeper. You want minimum 9 for a good DPS phase. For a good chunk, 40%, 30% or more. Because if you go in there with like 5 Sleeper or less, your damage isn't going to be enough to warrant a free phase. And you really want to do set up for that. And there's nothing stopping you just farming these ads. The boss isn't threatening, he just sits in middle. He won't harm you, when you're on the outskirts. It's mainly his blind and nade, when he throws those trip mine nades, not trip mine nades, but the blind and trip mines, wherever they are. don't know what they're called. That's where you can get your issues, because if you get naded by all the ads while that happens, that can be an issue. One thing I didn't mention is that you can get free stacks off the Marauder. The Marauder actually drops 10 riches. So you can actually make it such as 50 stacks rather than 60. Just remember that you've done that though, because here's the thing. Say for example, you're doing the fight, you killed the Marauder, you got your 10 stacks, but you forgot that you'd done that. You farmed up 60 stacks. What's going to happen there is, that's going to be a bit of a problem, because you're going to have, basically, you're going to have to sit there longer to get rid of all the rest of the stacks. It's not such of a problem if you stay in middle for damage like I do, but some people go on the outskirts for damage and it will be a problem to them, because they would lose on damage time getting rid of all their stacks, because if you move away from that crystal and you've got a stack of burden, by the time the damage is up on the boss, you will wipe to the burden. So this is why it's so key to be counting what you're doing. Like there might be a part where, you know, you've got 37 motes or some 37 riches, and you've had to go and get rid of them because you messed up the Scorch Cannon shot. That's fine. So you've got 8 seconds left and your Scorch Cannon didn't do what you wanted it to do when you've got riches. Then you need to go to middle, get rid of them. But just remember that you've done that. You need to think of that. Like, it's alright saying that some people might think, oh, that's easy, but it might not be. It's easy to forget when there's all these ads pushing you and you've got to think of this, that and the other. So you've just got to really remember what you've done. But that's another reason why this build's so good, because you can well on top of that crystal, and if you have got more riches than what you needed, those riches will get rid of while you do damage. Whereas if you go outside, you can go around the back, do a bubble or a well. You can do that, that's fine. For the most part, it's good, because you can get your crits a little bit easier, but the boss can come around and stomp you if you don't know what you're doing with your strafe and your stagger damage. Because funnily enough, this boss has that sort of stagger thing where if you don't stagger him enough, he'll come around the corner. And it's hard to explain because you can't see the footage, but he can come around the corner and just stomp you if you haven't staggered him enough with your slaver or whatever. But in middle you don't have that problem, because in middle he's just going to stand at the front of the map where you're just going to be in your well safe, you know, where the crystal is. So getting rid of some stacks here. So this is where my stacks was on an odd number, and I'd already dumped 10 stacks in before this, so I needed a couple extra stacks. Make sure you got all reloads as well. You don't want to be reloading when you start your DPS, because you will lose damage, and damage is so key for this. I can't remember how many stacks I needed here. It was just a couple, I think. You always look up for the loot like I'm doing, because it's random which box it comes out of. But if you look up, you can sort of jump and get them as it's falling to the floor before it hits the floor. So you can optimize it a little bit there, because they do run out in a quick time. If you can see, they just explode. So it was 12 stacks that we needed. So we've got our 12 stacks. We'll do a healing. We always do a healing, because there's a lot of stuff hitting you in mid. DBS, we do a well. Start off with the fusion for max stacks, and then it's Sleeper. Sleeper's your primary damage. It does. That's mainly what you want to be using on the boss to get your best damage on this loadout. But obviously you're going to use the fusion when you run out of your Sleeper, which I do that. That's a good chunk of damage. I'm happy with my crits. We'll do even more to make the final phase that much easier. That's great. Boss is 20%, I would say, and that's good. So we're now in free phase territory easily. But as I said, after each phase it is difficult, because you'll have expanded all your ammo, and this is where the Scorch Cannon is going to help you out. The Scorch Cannon guy's pushed us, which he always does. He may rotate around the map a bit, but eventually he'll make his way to you. This is obviously your safe zone. And it's the same thing, rinse and repeat. There's a high demand on ammo, especially the fact you've got to kill the VIP targets. If you want to kill them quickly as well, you can kill them with the Scorch. It's just a pain getting them, you know, getting all your shots. Get a bit of ad clear left, just because they're spamming me, and they may drop me ammo that I need, because I'm going to need some ammo to actually kill these VIPs. So I've got to farm up twice. Not only got to farm ammo for these VIPs, I'll have to farm up some ammo for the, after all of that, for actual DPS, because we'll need a bit of ammo. We won't need max, don't get me wrong, but we'll need some. I'm going to use Sleeper just to speed this up. The sniper's taken out, that's good. We've got a fresh cannon coming. This is why it's so good standing here. He's retreated for whatever reason. We're going to have a well Radiance up shortly, which we'll be able to utilise that again, same thing, because it'll speed up killing the Marauder while us getting our super back immediately sort of after, because then we're on Richie's duty then we're on back to, you know, getting Richie's, and then we'll get a super straight away. Got a bit of heavy special ammo that we're after mainly though, because I don't want to spend too much heavy on this Vandal. Its special ammo is obviously, you know, a bit easier to get. We've got plenty of special now, so we're good enough for damage on the Marauder. If you're going to do a well though for the VIP, do it on the outskirts sort of here, because once you start to push up to the middle platform, the boss will teleport round that platform and can stomp, and he can get in your way. Whereas if you stand around here, he's not going to come up here. He'll only come up here when he does DPS, when you do DPS. That's the Vandal gone, so that's that done. So now we're happy to sort of start getting riches and things. We're going to need a bit more ammo though, obviously, for DPS. Still not quite enough, but we can at least start getting riches. I think I was farming up ammo first though. We're max on special, so we're good that way. It's mainly just heavy. If we could get maybe at least one brick, that would be sort of enough. Some heavy now. It all depends. As I said, I've found this room to be a bit inconsistent with ammo drops. It just depends. But as I said, you can just farm to your heart's content until you get your ammo. Because if you're not making a video on it, it doesn't matter, does it? Your time doesn't matter. You're just looking for the solo flawless on it. Now we're just looking for the Scorch Cannon, which should be knocking about somewhere. Okay, so retreat, he's over the left side now, so we can go and get him. And then we can start building up riches, which is another stack, the 60 stack. I don't know if they should have went that high with the stacks. It should have made maybe 50, like the opening encounter or something like that. It just actually extends the fight quite along. But it is a good boss fight, don't get me wrong. I think it's really well designed, and the way you can, you know, where you move and things is a lot better designed than, say, Shattered Throne. Shattered Throne's very close. You're sheltered in. I know it's designed to be that way, but it's not as interesting, you know, like, you've got places to stand, you've got a bit of map rotation going on. So overall, it's really well designed. Now we go for our riches. We're always keeping an eye on our HP. Do a bit of ag clear here as well with the turret, with the scorch cannon while we pick up some riches. We're always keeping an eye on our timer as well, of course, because as I said, say if you mess up with the overcharge on the fallen unit and you don't get riches in time, then you need to know that to then have a plan B of going in middle. So say for example I was on like 5 seconds, 6-7 seconds, and I don't get the cannon right, because it takes time to charge that up, because I don't do single shots for the for when we're getting the loot, only on enemies and things. So what my rule is if you mess it up once, just go middle, and remember what you deposited, and then just go again with it. Then that way there's no chance of you sort of dying to riches. But you'll know that you'll get it if you get 44,000 damage done. You get your damage number, you know you've done it. If it's anything less, you won't. We're on 46 stacks now though. We're getting the stacks. We didn't do any additional stacks. Like when we killed the Marauder, we didn't pick up the stacks. Didn't bother with it. You don't really need to. If it's there to pick up and it's in a good spot, then do it. That's fine. But again, you don't have to do that. So for this final phase, I think I'm just going to do the 57. I ended up doing 57 stacks, and then I'll go back. I'll go back for the remaining 3. I think that's what I end up doing here. Because I don't think, I was wanting to see if we get more ammo. I think that's where it was. Which, to be honest, I had enough ammo to finish it, but I'm just looking for the Scorch Cannon. He's coming up now. What happened there is he was knocked off map. So if that happens, the Vandal will die and he'll have to be respawn. I'm not sure where the Vandal spawns in. Somewhere in the room, but your best bet is probably just going to the middle island and waiting up there, and then you'll end up getting a fresh, which is there now. It's best not to kill them when they're jumping over as well, because that's when you can lose your cannon, or the cannon's in mid-air and things like that. You want it when he's on a platform. Use a healing aid here just in case. When jumping to the middle platform. Quite dangerous. We only need 3 stacks. That's all we need. That's all we need. To be honest, that slowed us down. We should have just went for the 60. It is, but as I said, it is a bit dangerous because your healing ends just as like 50 stacks sort of are deposited. That's why I'd say it's probably best just doing like a 50 and a 10 split. That's our last stacks done. It's our DPS. So we'll same again. Well, max stacks for fusion and then slaver damage. We've got 5 shots left. That's enough damage to sort of finish the boss off. And that's the sort of flaws on it. It was a good dungeon overall. I'm happy with it, the way it is and things. As I said, we'll cover the other classes, Hunter, Titan as well. But other than that, that was the Warlock run. Hope you enjoy. Thank you.